I suspect there's still going to be some who are trying to move the goalposts on us one more time. You know, they said we needed to triple the Border Patrol. Or now they're going to say we need to quadruple the Border Patrol. Or they'll want a higher fence. Maybe they'll need a moat. Maybe they want alligators in the moat.
Now, that was President Obama today in Texas calling on Congress to go ahead with immigration reform. That's great, but does he mean it? Now, look, the Democrats did try for the DREAM Act at the end of last year, and of course the Republicans knocked it down. But other than that, immigration reform was not a high priority when the Democrats were in complete control. That's the reality of the situation. But look, the president needs those Latino votes really badly for reasons we're about to show you. So that's why he's reaching out to them in speeches like this. So let me show you the numbers. This is why they're so important in elections now. From 2000 to through 2010, the number of minorities increased in every single state. Hispanics are driving the growth. In 2000, Latinos accounted for 1 in 8 Americans, or 35.3 million people. Latinos now make up 1 in 6 Americans, or nearly 50.5 million people in all. In Texas alone, the Latino population is up 43% in the last decade. And if Obama can hold on to the same number of minority votes that he won in 2008, he can take Georgia with just 25% of the white vote. That is an amazing number. He can do the same in Nevada with just 35% of the white vote, and in Florida with just under 40%. This is why President Obama needs to appeal to this base. But should Latino voters go along? Look, that's a much tougher question. It's because they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Voting Republican usually ends up in disaster for them. And Texas is the perfect example where the president was today. Republicans in the Texas State House passed a bill late last night that would allow police to question anyone they detain about their immigration status. You know what it means? That means racial profiling of all Latinos. And that's why people don't want to vote Republican. On the other hand, you didn't get much action from the Democrats. How do you resolve that? Well, let's talk about it. Joining me now is Illinois Congressman Luis Gutierrez. And also with us, Clarissa Martinez de Castro. She's the Director of Immigration and National Campaigns at the National Council of La Raza. All right, great to have you both here.
Thank you.
Congressman, let me start with you. Well, the White House put out a statement today which makes me concerned. Let me read it to you. They say about President Obama, he's going to make the case that legislation is the root of reform. He wants to pass legislation as soon as possible, but he's not going to lay out any timelines. That was actually a senior administration official to Huffington Post saying that. When you say you're not going to lay out any timelines, doesn't that realistically mean we're not really going to get legislation?
Absolutely. I think you can see very clearly today the reception he received from the Republican governor of Texas was, I'm not showing up because I'm mad about something else, but I'm not going to be there, Mr. President. I mean, the governor of Arizona woke up this morning and said it's nice that he comes down to El Paso, but guess what? Secure the border first. We don't want to hear about anything else. And even if you listen to the president's speech, when he talks about his partnership, bipartisan partnership, there wasn't one leader of the Republican Party mentioned. You know why? Because they're not going to help and cooperate. As you suggested earlier, we passed the DREAM Act in the House with 8 Republicans. And we were stymied in the Senate in passing the DREAM Act because even the Republican senators that were co-sponsors of the bill in the end voted against the bill and to end cloture. So, I mean, to submit it to cloture. So look, here's what we're saying to the President of the United States. We had a wonderful meeting with him last Tuesday. He didn't tell us that he couldn't govern by decree. That's not what we're suggesting. What we're suggesting is that the President of the United States has broad discretionary powers and that there's 65,000 kids going to graduate from high schools all across America. Some of them are the class valedictorian. They've been admitted to Harvard. They're bright. They came here as young kids. He doesn't want to deport them. He shouldn't deport them. There are young kids this morning. I bet you today, I put money that today, somewhere in America, there were young American citizen children who were ripped from the arms of their mothers, undocumented. There's a soldier being sent to Afghanistan and his wife's under order of deportation. There are serious problems with our immigration system, and I think the president should look and to use that fairness and that justice and that balance. You know, we want him to be a Democrat and say, yeah, the Republicans are going to stymie every event, every opportunity we give them to come and share at the table and to pass meaningful legislation. But while they do it, we're not going to continue to cause havoc and harm on so many deserving families.
But Clarissa, what do you do with this problem? Because, yes, the Republicans are a disaster, and they killed the DREAM Act, and they passed laws like in Arizona and Texas, and you see it all over the place. On the other hand, the Democrats didn't deliver. So how do you put pressure on the Democrats to deliver when your other option seems like it's no option at all?
Well, I mean, I think that you use a good description when you said that Latino voters are finding themselves between a rock and a hard place. On the other hand, I think that Democrats have an imperative to demonstrate that they can deliver on promises made, and hopefully that will bring added pressure on Congress. At the same time, Republicans have to start rebuilding the relationship with the Latino community if they have any aspirations of getting to the White House. So we welcome the president's speech and finally using his bully pulpit to try to create the space for reform. We know that's going to take a while, so as we're asking Congress to be responsible, the administration also needs to be responsible, and they do have administrative powers to ensure that the application of these policies, because what we're experiencing is a systemic failure in our immigration policy, that they try to mitigate the damage that's being done. And so you're absolutely right. Too much politics has been played with this issue, too light on the solutions. And if this is just about politics, voters, Latinos and non-Latinos alike, are going to see right through it.
Congressman, we've got a poll from Gallup now showing that in January of 2009, the president had 74% approval rating among Latinos. That is now down to 54%. He lost 20 points there. I take it's because of the inaction. So now when the president gives speeches about, oh, I'll do it the next time around, is it good enough?
Look, Clarissa is absolutely right. The president has broad discretionary powers. Now, when we elected him, and I say those of us that championed his cause, we elected him to be our champion, right? And to be the kind of caring, compassionate, how would I say it, careful in the administration of the law and balanced, and to bring a sense of justice to his administration of the law. Look, it's just wrong. There are too many American citizens being impacted. There are too many meaningful people being impacted by our broken immigration system. They're not criminals. They're not gangbangers and drug dealers. They're not, there are people who are working hard, and their integration into the fabric of our society is so, how would I say, so enmeshed into the fabric of our society. We need the president to ameliorate the situation, to give some relief, because otherwise, here's what Latinos are going to say. For 2 years, Mr. President, you had 10, then 8, then 9 majority in the Senate. We didn't hear this clarion call. In the House, we waited until the lame duck session to propose the DREAM Act. 40 votes. They don't exist. And I, for one, I want to make this absolute, I am not going to participate in a situation, and in a political situation, in which we tell Latinos and immigrants, this is the cause of justice, and here's where we're going to get relief. It's not going to come from the legislative process. The Republicans are not going to be our partners. I had a partner. His name was John McCain. That partner left the table. The Republicans have left the table. They want to continue to cause damage and to continue to exploit this issue for political gain. And I think our president has to say, enough politics. I have power. I'm going to bring some justice and some common sense to the policy.
Clarissa, last question to you. Of course, Congressman Gutierrez is right. Today, Eric Cantor came out and said, how dare the president talk about immigration? That's how much disdain they have for the issue overall. But what can Latinos do with their power? Is it to threaten votes? Because if you threaten votes, then Republicans win, you're in worse shape. Or is it to threaten funding? Is it to threaten participation in getting out the vote? I mean, do we have to talk about realpolitik like that? Or do you just say, all right, let's hope for the best?
Well, what we saw in 2010, particularly in places like Arizona, is that the Latino community decided to take a stand in support and against the demonization of Latinos and immigrants across the country. Let's not forget that if people feel that certain candidates in the ticket are not meeting their requirements and their standards, there's other candidates to vote for. So we need to continue increasing our electoral power so that people can act according to those interests. But the last thing here, which is really important, is that, yes, this issue is of dire importance for Latinos, but let's not forget that the vast majority of the American public supports the same solution Latinos support. So this is good for Latinos, but it's also